Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Just kidding. I chose to do this video because I don't like writing papers, so I figure why not. And I actually do have a YouTube channel. I'm gonna put it on here in case she decides to show it to like other classes as an example, and y'all make sure y'all go like and subscribe. But today I'm here to talk about the different personality theories that come up, or the different personality theories that come up in the film analysis that I'm going to do for the movie titled Us. It was created by Jordan Peele. He also created the movie Get Out. So in the movie Us, it's basically, I just really hope that you guys see it because there's no way you can talk about this movie without giving away spoilers, so here's a heads up. So in this movie, it talks about this family whose mother was switched at birth, but I don't know if maybe like she tried to hide the fact about her past in her subconscious, because throughout the movie you'll notice things, but it's almost as if she's unaware that she was switched. Like, I feel like she doesn't really remember what happens to her until she comes back and she sees her actual doppelganger, or in the movie they're called her tethered. So her tethered. And so the story goes, they were at this place in like California. I can't remember. I think it's like La Palma. It's like a beachy California city. And they were at a fair on the boardwalk, and her mom, her dad, they were playing different games, riding different rides from the amusement park, and finally, I guess her parents were young. They looked pretty young, and she had to be maybe like 6 or 7 in the movie when they were at the amusement park. So she drifts away from her father because her mom and her father are like having a little, not really an argument, but just like a, hey, you need to watch your daughter because like I'm about to go to the bathroom and you already aren't paying attention to her and I'm standing right here. So her mom was like, make sure you watch her because, you know, people are crazy. And her dad was like, yeah, okay, I'll watch her. She ends up going off and she goes into this old mirror house, and in the mirror house is like where there was like, I want to say it was like a government scientific experiment with clones, where they were taking the genes of humans and manipulating them with bunnies. I think it was, basically we were at the part where we were talking about the government project where they were manipulating the genes of different humans that they had. So it was like this whole entire underground like world that no one knows about but the government. Apparently no one knows about this underworld but the government, and in the underworld are clones. And what separates, well, they're actually called tethereds in the movie. What separates the tethered from the actual people is the fact that the tethered has no soul. So I don't know if you know this, but they say that bunnies are the most psychotic animals by nature because their brains are so small and they don't have the capacity to understand emotions. So if like you took the brain of a bunny and you put it in a human, they would technically be a psychopath. That's what Jordan Peele said himself. It was quoted in an interview that he did with E! News when he was describing why he chose to have bunnies in the beginning of the scene. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So, back to at the amusement park. She's 7 years old. She's in the mirror house, and so she's already not supposed to be there. And of course, you know, it's dark in there. She really doesn't know what's real from fake because there's so many crazy mirrors everywhere. So when she looks in the mirror and she sees her reflection, but she notices that her reflection has on a red shirt versus her actual shirt, and she was wearing a Michael Jackson Thriller t-shirt that she had just won from playing a game. She noticed that her twin, or her tethered, you know, looked just like her but had on a red shirt. And so the tethered like gives her this crazy smile. We're skipping parts of the movie just so you can understand the gist of it. So her tethered has this crazy smile, chokes her out unconscious, drags her downstairs, handcuffs her to the bed, takes her Michael Jackson shirt and her pants, and like they switch outfits essentially, and she goes back to the real world pretending to be the real version of her. I want to say her name is, let's just say her name is I, because I can't remember what her real name is, but we're just going to go with I for the sake of this video. So I goes back to her family, and her mom notices, and mind you, this is also another key important factor. None of the people who are tethered who live underworld can speak any type of English. Like, all they know how to do is do what's done. So they do what the real versions of themselves do above world. So like in the movie, as she's walking downstairs to hold her, they replay the clips of what actually happened before she actually went to the mirror house. So there, she walks by this couple, and they're like in this picnic area, and they're eating French fries on the real world. But underneath, in the tethered version, they're in the same couple, they're in the cafeteria, but instead of eating like French fries and stuff, they're eating like dead bunnies, like raw. So as she notices the like I said, the above family, the above couple, they're eating their food. Underneath the tethered version, they're eating raw meat. So once the tethered switches, so we're gonna call the tethered red and the real version I. So once red comes back up to the real world, where her mom and dad are looking for her, her mom's like flipping out her dad, like, I can't believe that you left her. She's probably so traumatized. She's not talking. She's not doing this. She's not doing that. So as soon as they get back from the amusement park, like a couple days later, her mom takes her to go see a psychiatrist because she says that her daughter hasn't been speaking to her for weeks. It's like she's gone mute. She's not herself. And like I feel like the mom knows that maybe she's not really who she is, because as she's talking to the therapist, she says, I wish I had my daughter back. I don't know who she is. I don't know who this child is. That's not my daughter. Like, that's what she says to the therapist. And the therapist is like, well, you know, sometimes trauma affects kids and they won't speak for a while. Just give her time, keep her in the same routine. I'm gonna try to talk to her, try to get her, you know, back to her normal self. Fast forward, maybe like 30 minutes into the movie, she has this dance recital. And so while they're having this dance recital, the real red, which is I, so I is underneath the world. She's like also knows the dance moves. So I feel like the only reason why Red is actually able to actually perform the choreography for that dance recital without even necessarily going to any of the practices was because I was downstairs, not downstairs, but in the underworld, actually doing the movements while the performance was going on. It's like they were synchronized. Like, you have to watch the movie. They were synchronized. So everything that happened up top, the underworld also did. That's just how the story went. Like, they just mimicked everything. So they grow up now, like 20 years passed, and she has this family. She has a husband, she has a daughter, and she has a son. And they go back to the beach, where the beach house is, which is the same city where she initially switched with I. So once she gets there, she's already like apprehensive. You can tell that they've been to that same family beach house before, because in the movie she talks about how her son went missing for a few moments last summer. And so that's like a little background, like, okay, they've been there before. So she says how like this time around she feels so uncomfortable. She just feels like something's up. She just wants, you know, she doesn't want to go to the beach. She doesn't want to do anything. So they go to the beach against her will, and her son goes off missing for like 5 minutes. I would say maybe like 10 minutes. And all the way up until the point where they go to the beach, there's like this hidden commentary or like comments being made about how the son's weird and how the son doesn't know how to speak as well, or how he's just like off about the things that he says. It almost gives you the impression that the son was switched last year, and once you watch the ending of the movie, you'll understand why. So we're just gonna go straight into the personality theories. Now, the one that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be looking down some because I have a little bit of information typed just so I could try to stay on topic. But the first theory we're going to be discussing is the trait theory. So the trait theory aims to understand personality by categorizing attitudes and specific types of behavior into traits. These traits describe a tendency of a person to how they think, feel, behave, or act in a particular way. This theory takes a lexical approach to personality, supposing that the language acquires terms to describe personality traits so that people may discuss them. It assumes that dimensions of personality can be understood using existing terms, often words or short phrases. Which is all in the trait theory is also known as the personality theory. It's also known as the Big 5 factor. I'm flipping through my notes too. I came prepared, okay? Came prepared. So, the Big 5 factor So the 5-factor model, it was developed by Robert McCrae and Paul Costo, and it basically focuses on 5 broad measures of personality. They are broken down into 5 categories. So the first one is openness to experience. Excuse me, which is basically a willingness to try new activities, experience different ways of life, and to embrace unconventional ideas. So in this movie, you would say that obviously Red, which was the tethered one, had to be open to new experiences in order to unlearn, or basically learn, period, how to live and how to adapt to society without being known and found out that she's a tethered. While the real person, which is while she also had to be open to experience, because here she is taken out of her real world and put into this position where she's like totally confused. She feels like her whole life was ripped from her, because essentially it was. So she has to adapt to this new lifestyle of people who don't even know how to speak English, which is why once like everyone else realizes that she's the real deal, she's not a tethered, they start this revolution and they start this revolt, and she's the leader of it. Like in the movie, she says how once everyone found out who she was, they put her in charge because they thought that she was the person who was going to bring them up to the real world so they can actually have normal lives, because they were tired of eating raw rabbit. They were tired of not being able to play with real toys, like the kids weren't able to play with real toys. Like when she comes out, she says how her son, because everything, now keep in mind throughout this whole movie, everything that happens up top happens in the bottom. It's just the worst conditions. So like when When I came back to resurface with her family, she literally had a family who looked just like, you know, Red's family, like just like the husband, just like the kids, looked just like everyone. So when she came back and she had the family there, she was telling Red, like, you had a natural birth and you were comfortable. Meanwhile, they had to get scissors and cut this baby open out of me, and she was awake for all of it. She felt all that pain. So they were tired of feeling the pain. They wanted to have happiness too. So she had to start the revolt, and that's when they came up and they started killing people. Now, the second factor is conscientiousness, which is, I need to take this gum out. Okay, which is a tendency to be conscious of one's own behavior and the consequences of one's actions. Conscientious people like to be well organized, punctual, and goal-oriented in their behavior. And I feel like I, which is the real version, had to be very conscientious because she had to organize this whole thing. Like she said they spent years planning this attack to come up to the light. Everyone had on the same red uniform. Everyone had a pair of scissors. Everyone knew what to do, what house to go to, who to get, and how to kill them. Like, they were all organized. There were no ifs, ands, or buts. Everyone knew what to do. Conscientiousness. Then there's also extroversion. Extroverts are lively, talkative, and outgoing. They're confident socializers and enjoy meeting new people. Low extroversions or introversions is characterized by quietness and often shy behavior. So in the movie, Red is actually so much more of an introvert versus I, who's obviously an extrovert because she's out here telling people what to do, coming up with plans. She's not afraid of letting them know, you know, what's going on. She's clearly an extrovert, where her tethered, which is Red, like in the beginning when they're at the beach, and she's just at the beach reading a magazine, she's trying to have small talk with her husband's friend's wife. I guess they do these like family vacations often, but the wife of the other family was trying to, you know, make small talk, make conversation, excuse me, and Red just wasn't having it. She was just like, I don't have much to say. I just enjoy reading, but I'm here. Like, you could tell she just really was not in her element when all this stuff was going on. That's extroversion. Next is agreeableness, which is individuals who are cooperative, altruistic, and helpful. They're perceived as being warm in social situations. Low agreeableness results in selfish behavior and increased levels of suspicion, and distrust of others. So Red clearly didn't trust nobody. She didn't want her son out of her sight. She didn't want to be around anyone. She was always so skeptical about like everything. Even like, okay, like I know it's nighttime, somebody's ringing on your doorbell. Her first instinct was to call the cops. Not even to see like, oh, maybe they might, you know, need something. Maybe their tire blew out. Maybe it's the neighbors who just wanted to see if you had some sugar. Like, from the top, she was just always like on guard about everything, and it showed throughout the whole movie. Versus I, who obviously had to learn how to adapt. She had to come up with this helpful behavior by leading the revolution, by helping her other, or not even necessarily her, I mean, I guess you could say that they are like, is it comrades? That they're comrades now, because she sees what's really going on, so she's trying to help them and help herself at the same time. So I guess that's altruism. But I mean, I feel like it's not, because at the end of the day, she's doing it because of her. It's not like she went down there on her own and started this revolution. She started the revolution because she was switched. So I feel like she does have agreeableness tendencies. Maybe she's not 100% altruistic, but she definitely has those traits. Then the next one is neuroticism. Neuroticism are people experiencing high levels of people experiencing high levels of neuroticism tend to worry and experience anxiety. This may lead to anger and frustration when they focus on negatives instead of positive. So there's this scene in the movie where Red is trying to tell her husband, I think her husband's name is Paul. She's trying to tell Paul how she like doesn't want to be here. She feels like something's coming to get her. And she was just essentially making this whole trip about her. And the husband's like, okay, well, maybe you just need to sleep on it. Like, we're here as a family. This isn't about you, essentially. This is about us having a good time as a family. Like, what is the problem? And the husband and the kids didn't know what happened. Like, everything is unfolding before their eyes. So he didn't know, like, the reason why she didn't want to be at the beach is because she switched lives with a clone years ago when she's a child, and she has this instinct that the same thing is about to happen back again. So that's neuroticism. Next we're going to talk about PIN. Okay, so before we go into PIN, we're going to talk about one of the 6 factors, which is probably going to be added in the future, which is basically honesty. Obviously in the movie you can clearly see that Red was not honest at all, because she couldn't even tell her family what happened. And then not only that, I'm sure there were plenty of opportunities for her to be like, hey, listen, I'm not your daughter, but I know where your daughter is, and there's a whole nother world that don't nobody know about, so I'm gonna inform you, that way we can just rescue everybody. Like Red, I'm sure she had those opportunities, but she never took it because she's not an honest person, and it shows throughout the whole movie. And versus I, who is the real person, she clearly is honest, because when she comes back up to the real world, she like tells not everyone, she tells Red what she did was messed up, this is why we're doing this, we're coming back to get what's ours, blah 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 blah. Like, she's 100% transparent about why she's there, who she's there for, and why she wants to get revenge. Like the who, what, when, where, why, she's transparent about all that, versus Red, who was only thinking about herself, and she's not honest at all. Now we're going to get into the PIN, which is a theory that was created by a German-born psychologist named Hans. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but I think it's Hans Esnick. It was basically a set of questions to assess the personalities for soldiers being treated there. He used factor analysis. He found out that many of the soldiers' responses were related to the answers given to other questions. So basically, PIN stands for psycho. I'm sorry. PIN stands for psychoticism, extroversion, and neuroticism. So different. I'm just gonna give you a few characteristics of psychoticism, which is aggressiveness, egocentric, manipulative, dogmatic, tough-minded. I feel like Red, which is the tethered, was very, she had a lot of those traits. She was very manipulative. As you can see in the movie, it's like she didn't really want her family to know what she did. And even in the ending of the movie, even at the end of the movie, like, I feel like her son knew what was up, because he gives his mom this look like, I know you're not my real mom. But it's like the family's already become so accustomed that you don't even, like, the what's real and what's fake gets blurred in their perspective, because it's like, okay, you're not my real mama, but you're literally all that I know. So I feel like she just is a manipulative person, period. The next one is extroversion. which is sociable, dominant, sensation seeking. I want to say that is I, which is the real person who was switched. She's definitely has a lot of those traits. She had to be sociable because she was the only person who knew how to talk. She was very dominant because even in the movie, she was the leader of the pack. She started the whole entire revolution. And then there's neuroticism, which is self-fulfilling, and selfish and only thought of themselves. I feel like that's very much so Red. She only thought about herself throughout this whole entire movie. I feel like, long story short, Red is just not a good person. She's not. Like, I understand why people like have this thing where she's like this hero, but I feel like Jordan Peele does a good way. He's like very, very good at blurring the lines between hero and villain, because you can see the hero in both and you can also see the villains in both Red and I. So like those lines blur so much, which is why I chose to do this film analysis on that, because there's so much that you can break down. And I could talk about this movie for hours, but we're only focusing on one character, so I'm trying not to like talk about anyone else. But the whole entire cast, like seeing the tethered versions of themselves and seeing the real versions of them and how they contrast and how they're like complete opposites. I feel like honestly, if you did personality theories for each of the family members, you would find how each of them, how all of the tethers are similar and how all of the real people are also similar. And even like to the family that they went on vacation with, the tethered versions of themselves were opposite. Like the family who they went on vacation with, they were a white family. The husband and the wife did not really get along. They were always bickering, always going back and forth. But the tethered version of themselves worked as a team. Like they were a unit. They worked together to get in the house. They worked together to kill the family. They worked together to accomplish the task. And it's just interesting to see how the roles and the personalities reversed from the real world to the tethered form. So yeah. I feel like I've been talking forever. That's my film analysis, and I hope that you enjoy.